Hey guys, it's Dan, welcome back to Janataz Media, and today's video is not one I thought I would be making. As most of you know, Netflix just dropped their new live-action adaptation of Ichiro Oda's world-famous manga, One Piece. Now, originally I had zero intention of watching this live-action version of One Piece, let alone make a video reviewing the show here on my channel. As we all know, the track record for live-action adaptations of anime and manga is shit, and therefore I fully expected this show as well to also be shit like most of those other live-action adaptations. However, over the summer I made this new friend who is a huge One Piece fan, and he actually ended up convincing me to give this show a chance. He told me all about how Ichiro Oda, the original creator of One Piece, was heavily involved in the series, and how there was actually a really strong chance that the show could actually be good. And so I decided to give both him and this live-action version of One Piece the benefit of the doubt. And now, after watching all 8 of the episodes that dropped on Netflix, I can't get the series out of my mind, and therefore decided to make a video review of it. Now, since I decided to make this video out of the blue, it's going to be completely unscripted. Aside from a few bullet points I jotted down, this video really won't be done in my traditional format. And to make things a lot easier, since there is another video I do want to make soon after this, I decided not to include any footage from the live action series in order to make the editing process of the video a lot faster. So if you enjoy this new format of my videos, make sure to let me know in the comment section down below, and maybe I'll do more videos like these in the future. And on the topic of future videos, to all of you who love anime and manga, chances are this channel is for you. I cover all sorts of titles here on my channel, like Bleach, Chainsaw Man, Pokemon, and I guess now One Piece. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you subscribe today so you don't miss out on any new videos of mine in the future. So without further ado, let's just get straight to business and start this review of Netflix's live-action version of One Piece. So, One Piece is a series I have a rather interesting relationship with. Despite technically being one of the first manga I got to read as an adult a few years ago now, it's a series that, in the grand scheme of things, I've only recently gotten into. So, while I am still super behind on the manga, I still would consider myself a fan of the series. I personally collected the entirety of the East Blue Saga, and slowly but surely catching up with the series here on Shonen Jump, and it's become something that I do genuinely enjoy to read. However, in spite of all this, like I said earlier, initially I was not really excited for this live-action adaptation. Even though I personally am not one of those people who believe that anime can't be adapted well into live action, we've seen studios try time and time again to adapt all sorts of different anime and manga into live action, only to time and time again see them miserably fail to do so. Somehow, even series that should have been easy to adapt into live action, such as Death Note or Cowboy Bebop, somehow ended up being complete disasters. So, if they couldn't even get good live action adaptations, what hope did One Piece have at getting a good live action adaptation, since it's probably one of the hardest series to adapt in live action, given how fictionalized the characters, setting, and premise are by nature. But, as they say, life is full of surprises, and now that all 8 episodes of the new One Piece have come out on Netflix, I can happily say that not only is One Piece's live-action adaptation actually good, but it's probably the best manga anime adaptation I've seen yet. Now, it's at this point in the video that we will be venturing into spoiler territory for both the live action series and the manga. So, for those who don't really like spoilers, watch this video at your own discretion. And with that being said, let's pick up where we left off. Now, I'm pretty sure every single one of you knows what One Piece is at this point, since the franchise itself is pretty much legendary and has achieved feats that remain unparalleled to this day. It currently holds the record as the best-selling manga series of all time, and also holds the record as one of the longest-running anime series of all time. So, in a way, it's actually very fitting that One Piece be one of the first fantasy action shonen series to get a really good live action adaptation. But even so, I really doubt anyone ever thought it could happen. I think a lot of people probably thought it was impossible for them to pull it off in any medium other than animation or manga. But I'm glad to say this series somehow managed to pull it off. Now, a lot of the overall quality of the live action One Piece adaptation, I feel, can be attributed to the involvement of One Piece's creator himself, Eiichiro Oda. Not only was Oda hired to be an executive producer on the show, but he also ended up supervising the entire thing. And thanks to Oda's involvement, the live-action version of One Piece ends up retaining all the heart and soul that was put into the original manga, making it almost feel like the exact same story people fell in love with and have continued to follow for years now. And none of that would have ever been possible if it weren't for Eiichiro Oda's hand in the series. Now, to start off, let's talk about the series' aesthetics, which are an absolute visual treat to the eyes. This set design is gorgeous. The production design on this show is absolutely stellar. Netflix previously stated that One Piece was their second most expensive series they've ever made, and that's something that is extremely evident in both the sets and props of the series. Of course, this is live action, so not everything looks one-to-one, but even still, the series was able to get some of the sets to look pretty spot on from how they look in the manga and anime. For example, Alvida's ship looked fantastic and extremely similar to how Oda designed it in the manga. And the same thing goes for Arlen Park and Cocoa Village, which are so spot on with Oda's designs in the manga that it literally blows my mind. Even the redesigned sets, like Kaya's mansion in Syrup Village or the new design for the Going Merry, looked really good in the series. And the same thing can even be said to all of the original sets that were clearly made to cut cost on the series, such as Buggy Circus in Orangetown. Because not only does it just look really cool, but it ends up fitting so well with the live-action show and the version of the story that they're presenting to the audience. Also, I've gotta say, the show's costumes are so good. Now, anyone who's read One Piece knows that most of these characters have very eccentric looks. And it's one of the main reasons why so many people thought that One Piece could never be done in live action, since a lot of these characters will just end up looking really stupid on screen. But this show manages to pull it off. Almost every single character has the exact same exotic look that they have in the manga. And while many of them do come off looking quite weird and over the top on screen, it ends up working really well because it's One Piece, and the lunacy is part of what makes the series so special. Another pro is that I really like the way the show does the CGI and the practical effects for the sea monsters and fishmen, as well as the effects for all the attacks and powers of the main characters. All the characters' abilities look excellent on screen, with some of my favorites including the effects used for Zoro and Buggy's fight scenes. But even then, you can tell that they saved the best effects for Luffy's Gum Gum powers in the series, which look just as good as anything you'd be able to pull off in a movie. Then in regards to the script, this first season of the One Piece live action series presents us with a brand new version of the East Blue Saga, the first overarching storyline within the One Piece manga. And while the live action version of the East Blue Saga is much shorter than the manga or anime and makes a ton of changes to the storylines, I do feel that screenwriters Matt Owens and Steven Maeda do a very good job readapting the script in a way that feels very natural to the new live action format, but still respectful to the original manga source material. Now, I will admit, this script does have some problems. For example, I think they skipped over way too much of the Baratier arc. Due to the sheer amount of scenes that they cut from this arc, much of the things that happen in this arc end up being forgettable, with one of the few exceptions being all the scenes regarding Mihawk and Sanji. The massive condensing done in the Baratier arc also ends up having a negative effect on the Arlen Park arc, which ends up feeling incredibly rushed and undercuts some of the most integral scenes in the manga, such as Bellamir's death and the scene where Luffy lends Nami his hat after Arlong has the Marines steal all of her money. But in spite of all of its faults, I do believe that the good aspects of the script outweigh the bad. For example, I think each and every one of the characters' origin stories were done very well in the live action and ended up having the same emotional gut punch that they did in the manga. Then, I also think that the live action version of the Syrup Village arc ended up being much better than both the anime and manga versions of that storyline. Especially since, in my opinion, it does a much better job fleshing out Kaya and Usopp's characters during their introduction, and also making Clawdor feel like a much bigger threat, by making both his motives and methods of killing make way more sense than they ever did in the manga. The series also makes a very bold choice to give Vice Admiral Garp and the Marine Corps such a large role so early on in the story. But in my opinion, it actually ends up working really well because of the way it adds to the ending of this first season. Then, we got to talk about the cast of the live-action One Piece, because this show might just be one of the most well-cast series I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, typically, I don't like to pick favorites when it comes to actors and characters in a show. However, Iñaki Godoy is so good as Monkey D. Luffy that I'm kind of forced to make him my favorite on this show. Godoy's performance feels like it was ripped straight out of the manga, as he personifies everything about Luffy's character, from his hopeful optimism to his free spirit and his fierce determination. Everything about his performance just shows why he's such a natural fit for the character, which makes me incredibly grateful to Oda for choosing him to play the role. And the exact same thing can be said about Jacob Gibson, who just is Usopp in the series. Usopp is one of the best characters in the manga, and I absolutely love the way he was portrayed in this live-action series. Although Usopp may be a liar and a coward, he's not a bad person, and Gibson does a great job at showing this to the audience through the way he portrays Usopp's big heart and also his undying loyalty to his friends, which actually helps him overcome his worst habits to help them in times of need. Then, while Makenyu Arata, Emily Rudd, and Taz Skylar's live-action versions of Roronoa Zoro, Nami, and Sanji are all far more serious and less cartoony than their anime and manga counterparts, they all do a great job at portraying their characters in a way that still feels familiar and respectful of the original source material. Now, initially, I wasn't too keen on Makenyu's take on Roronoa Zoro, since it felt like he was turning the character into this emo edgelord. However, I'll admit, his performance really did grow on me as time went on. I really liked the way Makenyu portrays Zoro as this man of strength and honor, and I also think he did a really good job capturing Zoro's burning passion for swordsmanship, along with his good nature and undying loyalty to his crew. I also think Emily Rudd did a great job with her portrayal of Nami. Although her version of the character is a lot more grounded and less quirky than the original, I actually think it worked really well with the story the live action was trying to tell. Rudd does a great job portraying Nami as a tortured soul haunted by her past, and although the manga version may be a bit more playful, Rudd does a really good job at ensuring that her version of Nami has just as much heart and intelligence as the original. Then of course, who could forget about Taz Skylar's incredible performance as the live-action Sanji? Much like the live-action versions of Zoro and Nami, Skylar's Sanji is far less goofy and over-the-top than his manga counterpart. Though I honestly think Skylar more than makes up for it in his performance with his impeccable charm and charismatic personality. Skylar's version of Sanji is just as much of a ladies' man as he was in the manga, and is probably one of the best fighters on the show. The way Skylar captures all of Sanji's bravery and quirkiness in the series is absolutely perfect. And he's honestly, in my opinion, another one of the best cast actors on the show. Overall, this new live-action version of One Piece was an absolute blast. I love all the actors, sets, and costumes, and I'm really enjoying the direction the series is going to. This show is something I can totally see myself covering as each season comes on to Netflix, and hopefully, since there was a post-credit scene at the end of the final episode, and this show has been #1 in America for almost a week now, Netflix does end up renewing it for a second season that will allow us to continue our adventures with the live-action Straw Hat crew for just a little while longer. So, when it comes to how I'd rate the series overall, I think I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. This is by far the best adaptation of a shonen action fantasy manga we've seen yet, and it really sets the bar for future adaptations to come. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and share this video with others in order to help support my channel. Also, feel free to let me know your thoughts on the live action One Piece in the comment section down below. So with that being said, I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video.